We have got few questions for the discussion. So I would request our chairpersons to ask the question to our respected speakers.
Dr. Asif Ali have asked to Dr. Poptani sir, do you recommend LDL less than 70 for all the diabetic patients?
Yes, I mean, if we look at calculate your atherosclerotic risk factors, the ASCVD score, if it's more than 20%, and if the patient is more than 40 years of age, yes, we would recommend to get your LDLs to less than 70. And if your LDLs don't come to less than 70 with a statin therapy only, then yes, you can intensify it with an ezetimibe or the PCSK9 inhibitors simultaneously. So if your atherosclerotic risk factor, ASCVD risk factor, which we call it as more than 20, definitely it should be there to less than 70.
Right. Thank you so much. Next question is from Dr. Swapnil Bhavsar. Does CVD trial data stands true for diabetic patients without any CV risk factors? If Dr. Pia ma'am can answer the question.
Dr. Pia ma'am is not available with us right now. Our eminent cardiologist can answer that.
What's the question? Can you please repeat it?
Question is, does CVD trial data stands true for diabetic patient without any CV risk factors?
So if without any CV risk factors, yes, we need not go to less than 70 target. Yes, we can keep our targets to less than 100 for such patients. Or initial target goal for your dyslipidemia LDL management is to be less than, to achieve the target of 50%.
Okay, sir, the question was not related to LDL goal for this question.
Okay, sorry.
To, not an issue. It was related to CVD trial data regarding CV risk factor without CV risk factor for diabetic patients. So, Dr. Ramesh Goyal sir can answer for diabetic patients sir without any CV risk factor.
Yeah, Dr. Kalpesh, my view is that whenever we are treating a type 2 diabetes,
yes,
and
they are already
they already have some background atherosclerosis. The only reason that the patient did not have a MI or did not have a stroke or did not have a PVD doesn't mean that the patient is not having underlying atherosclerosis.
Absolutely.
So if this drugs they are working on patients having atherosclerosis which is documented, they will, I think, work equally well on the patients who have atherosclerosis, but which is not documented clinically.
Absolutely.
So I think it should work well in both group of patients.
I think I will add one more thing to Dr. Goyal's comment here, that a lot of our patients with diabetes are obese, they are hypertensive, all of that. So for patients with diabetes, the extra glycemic effects also of the SGLT2 inhibitors are actually additive as well. And though there's a lot of subclinical CVD, which is also benefited by this, a lot of other effects also are beneficial with these drugs for diabetic patients per se.
Absolutely right, madam. Sir, next question is also to you, sir, Dr. Ramesh Goyal, sir, from Dr. Sanjay Patil. What should be the target for TSH in first trimester of pregnancy in diabetic and hypothyroid patient already on treatment?
So irrespective whether patient is diabetic or not, if a patient is having hypothyroidism, the first trimester target should be TSH less than 2.5. And for second and third trimester, it should be less than 3. So that is a patient who is a known case of hypothyroidism, irrespective of whether she is diabetic or not.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Sir, there are two more questions for Dr. P.V. Rao, sir. One is from Dr. Sanjay Patil. Dr. P.V. Rao, sir, is it practically feasible to do C-peptide and GAD antibodies tests for all the patients in India, looking especially at the cost of testing? You have already answered this in chat, but we would like you to answer it again for our listeners and the delegates.
Thank you for the question. It's expensive. Yes, I understand it's expensive, but I have mentioned in my presentation that even I don't like this way of classifying adult population into different categories based on GAD antibodies. But of late, they have been giving us more and more reasons for depending on these two biochemical parameters. Right now, the cost is around 1,500 for C-peptide and GAD. Maybe the cost will come down to half once people start using the C-peptide and GAD antibodies. Thank you.
Okay. And again, second question is also to you, Dr. Rao sir. It is from Dr. Swapnil Bhavsar. How to do C-peptide in patients already taking premix or basal bolus insulin therapy?
It's actually known very well that exogenous insulin administration does not affect C-peptide estimation. So we have also done C-peptide in plasma, in serum, and capillary blood, and I have shown. And we have made a nomogram also. So our nomogram is a non-fasting. Nowadays, most of the biochemical tests are being averted to non-fasting. So a non-fasting C-peptide value more than 1.5 nanogram per ml is considered normal, and it is telling us that it's a non-insulin dependent value. So right now this is the value we consider, and it doesn't really is affected by exogenous insulin administration. Thank you.
Okay. So I guess that is all for questions in the chat box. There are no more questions left.
Okay.
So thank you so much, eminent speakers, for your wonderful talks. It was really interesting listening to all of you, and we have learned a lot today. So thank you so much, and over to Dr. Divya.
Thank you. Thank you, chairpersons and all the speakers for your presence. So here we reach the end of the session as well as end of the day. Thank you so much everyone for joining in. We'll meet again at 8:30 a.m. tomorrow in the morning. Thank you so much. Good night.